Hey friends, Dean here. Before we get you on to your episode, I want to take a moment to invite you to our next virtual online trivia night. Wednesday, May 13th at 8 p.m. Join us either on our Facebook group or on our YouTube page for 3 rounds of fun trivia, music questions, movie questions, general knowledge questions. It'll be a fun time and a chance to win some prizes and have just a good relaxing night of some trivia at home. You don't even have to go out for it. So don't forget, Wednesday, March 13th at 8 p.m. Join us on our Facebook group or YouTube for 3 rounds of fun virtual online trivia. We'll see you there. We've got a top 5 coming your way with a very special guest. Jonah Weingarten from the Movie Lovers Podcast is here. But we've got him talking music with us as we roll out our top 5 new wave hits of the 80s. Stay with us.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff, and Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast. Dean Legiro with you here, as well as Eric Kuber.
Hello.
There he is. And a special guest. We've got another top 5 special guest. Jonah Weingarten from the Movie Lovers Podcast is with us. So gracious. Thank you, Jonah, for taking time out of your day to share your top 5 with us as well.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So, Jonah, why don't you tell us a little bit about your podcast, Movie Lovers Podcast?
Movie Lovers Podcast was started by myself and my wonderful girlfriend, Mallory, about a year ago. Originally, she wanted to just do a podcast by herself, but I was like, hey, I want to be included too, especially if it's a movie podcast. So we figured out that it was fun and spicy to disagree about things, especially movie related in the podcast format. So it's been a wonderful journey with, doing that with her, and a great couples activity, and it's starting to catch on. So
nice.
Yeah,
And where can everybody find your podcast?
They can find us at movieloverspod.com or at Movie Lovers Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Nice. And they have a very, very interesting spin on how they approach movies. So it's not just your normal standard movie review, and I don't want to give it away. You really have to check out one of the episodes because they really have some interesting categories.
Absolutely. And me and my wife are already big fans, so we've already listened to a few episodes. So we like your approach very much. So
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it's a little unorthodox at times.
Well, let's give. You know what? Why don't you give a couple of the categories that you guys do? Let's whet their appetite.
Well, so one of them is Who Would You Bone? We have alternate porn title. We have the O'Doyle, which is, of course, comes from the Billy Madison movie.
O'Doyle rules.
O'Doyle rules, yeah. And then we have more serious categories like Who Would You Give the Oscar to? And Movie Magic, and we have the music score and soundtrack. But one of the fun things about our podcast is that we also have like kind of voiceover and musical segue bits that I did myself all in the studio. So you get to hear my Arnold impersonation and all my ridiculousness. I wouldn't even know how else to describe it, but it's fun. It's sort of like a variety show kind of spin on it. Cool, like how Jimmy Fallon has little like musical bits between to introduce things.
Cool. Nice.
Lots of fun. Really great stuff. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
So you might be wondering, why is somebody that does a movie podcast guest hosting on a music episode? But in addition to the Movie Lovers Podcast, Jonah is also a professional musician. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Well, I am an AFM Records recording artist. I play in a band called Pyramaze. That's Pyramaze, that hails from Denmark. So I'm the only American member of that band. I've been in that band for almost 20 years, and we are currently working on our 7th record. And then I also play in a band that's based in Germany called Catalyst Crime. That's a symphonic metal band, and we are on Massacre Records. So Pyramaze is sort of melodic progressive power metal, and then Catalyst Crime is symphonic metal. And then I also do things like video game soundtracks and sports team anthems. I mean, I get hired for random studio projects all the time, and I love those too, the one-off things. So yeah.
Neat. And
Great.
we are so happy and excited that you've taken the time to share your time with us. And as we talk about 80s new wave, top 5 80s new wave hits. So I sent Jonah a list of different subjects, and this is what he picked.
Oh,
so
great.
We're ready to do it, and we're happy that he's here and he's got his list ready. So when we talk about 80s new wave, my first thought was, well, my list is mainly going to be English groups.
Yeah.
Right? Because usually when you think 80s new wave, you immediately think like the second British invasion.
Yeah.
Right?
Pretty much. I mean, all those synth pop bands and they really, there was a whole new renaissance of that kind of thing. So, synthesizer came into the fray in a much more pleasant way, I guess. It wasn't so prog anymore. It wasn't used for spacey effect now. And now it's just, these little 2-minute songs, and it was used to
became a
great
lead
effect
instrument.
that way. Yeah, absolutely.
And the much maligned drum machine as well. So not only were they sampling guitars with keyboards and all that stuff, the much to the most drummers hated drum machines.
Yeah, me too.
Like they would play them, but they're like, no, I'd rather play drums. So Jonah, was this difficult? Was this a tough nut to crack for you, or did you have 5 just like ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, not a difficult nut to crack at all. I was born in 83, so my memories of these songs are from when I was a very small child, at least when they were originally released. And of course, like as I've gotten older, I've really sort of rediscovered it all and gotten more into, like Depeche Mode's catalog and whatever. But as a keyboard player myself, of course, I also have an appreciation for what some might consider to be super cheesy stuff. I do own a keytar also. You should know that going into this. So
that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
I think you and Jan Hammer have the only 2 keytars left.
There you go.
Well, Roland has been making keytars every now and then. They'll run out like a new line of keytars, and I mean there's definitely a market for it. You might be surprised to know.
Joe Jackson was using that for a while too, wasn't he? In some of his live shows, he was kind of incorporating that into his sound as well. But that's cool stuff. That's awesome. I'd love to hear you play it.
Yeah, there's a video out there somewhere. But Eric, I was gonna say, it's funny you mentioned the thing about the British invasion and that, because whenever I do my impersonation of any of these new wave bands, I always I start sounding like a Charles Dickens character, like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you go. Like the whole thing.
Very, very Dickensian. Yeah, there you go. That's great. That's awesome.
All right. Let's get it rolling. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Eric will go first. We're going to put Jonah in the uncomfortable position of being between us.
As always.
And we'll be like we did with Christy and our top 5 alternative.
You're sandwiched in. Yeah.
We'll be throwing some sandwich action.
We'll be throwing some elbows. We'll be throwing some elbows at him, make him uncomfortable. And we'll roll it all the way down to number 1. Eric, is there any theme to your list? Normally there's an order. We haven't done one in a while. Usually you alphabetize or year or
no, there's really no particular order to
no
mine.
rhyme or reason.
Nope.
Jonah, any with yours?
Let me scale that
we
back.
Go.
Let me walk it back. My number 5 and my number 1 are both from the same year. That's it. Yeah. So I kind of bookended,
Okay.
So there you go.
I've got 3 from the same year when I'm looking at my list. Not by design, but I'm like, wow. Okay. Jonah, any trend in your list, or it's just all over the place?
I mean, some of them just sort of elicit memories or emotions or that kind of thing. And I couldn't even tell you what year they're from. I just know that they're from the 80s.
It's kind of like us with the 70s, right? We were probably like you, very young, but we have a lot of great memories about the 70s music, and that's what we kind of grew up on. So it's it's interesting to hear.
Yeah, we were teens.
Come in from a decade later, to experience that. So it's great.
I could be like, well, this song came out when I was in kindergarten, so
yeah. Okay.
Oh, all right, let's get it going. So without any further delay or ado, as it were, let's get it rolling. So Eric, you're gonna roll us with your number 5 top new wave hit of the 80s. Let it rip.
All right. So this was the song that launched MTV. Video Killed the Radio Star by the Buggles, Jeff Downes and Trevor Horn. I'm a big prog fan, so these guys were, I mean, this song actually came out in 79, and it was recorded concurrently with another group, with another person who co-wrote the song. And Thomas Dolby played keyboards on that version of the song, interestingly enough. I didn't know that until just before I came on. I was doing some of the research, and yeah, these guys ended up playing with Yes, for their 1980 drama album, which I thought was very interesting. It's kind of like the Buggles meets Yes, and it's like when John Anderson and Rick Wakeman left the band, these guys filled in, and they was sort of brought that sort of 80s, already like very 80s sound to the band. And then of course, a couple of years later, Trevor Horn would produce their number one hit with On a Lonely Heart. So, but this song, I just think it's just fun. I always loved it. I think it's so kitschy. But, this really means a lot because, it wasn't really a big hit on chart wise. But like I said, it launched MTV, and that was a huge, huge deal for us. So there it is. That's my number 5.
Very prophetic song, too. I mean,
absolutely.
Nobody would have ever thought at the time that, yet, like you said, it seems like a novelty thing and very, very kind of.
But it speaks to the great change, the great, like I mentioned before, the renaissance of 80s, like the technology that would be coming incorporated into the music. So they're basically talking about this in the song. So
and no one ever thought like that the first video ever played on MTV would be such a watershed moment or memorialized as what song was it? And ironically enough, it was Video Killed the Radio Star. So it's just
directed by Russell Mulcahy, who did Highlander. Yeah.
And he did a lot of music in the 80s. He was doing everything. He did Queen. He did all kinds of, he was just a music video guy before Highlander. So that's a great choice.
That one was easy for me. That was the first song I actually thought of. So,
really?
Yeah.
Trevor, you're not going to go wrong with Trevor Horn.
That's right.
And he actually almost made an appearance on one of my other songs that came off of, but we'll maybe save that for later. So Jonah, what do you got for number 5? Top 5 hits of the 80s, new wave.
So my number 5 pick is Shout by Tears for Fears. Oh. I mean, very well known song, very iconic. And I just always loved the vocals from the singer whose name I couldn't tell you, but I'm sure you guys maybe might know.
Roland Oldswall.
There you go. Yeah, he had a very unique tone to his voice, sort of that mid-range. I really like that. Mm-hmm. And you guys should check out a synthwave group called Scandroid did a cover of this song that honestly is as good or better than the original.
Marking it down.
Scandroid, S-C-A-N-D.
Scandroid?
Yeah.
Okay.
R-O-I-D, yeah. It's fantastic, yeah.
Cool. Wow. So
that's a great choice.
Did you remember hearing that, or was that something you revisited or kind of came to later?
This is one of those songs that you hear your whole life. You go in anywhere. You could go into an Applebee's or something and they're playing it. But I think in my older years, and by that I mean more recently, I've been appreciating 80s new wave more because I got into the synthwave movement. I listened to a lot of synthwave, which is this revival of this, but with a modern twist. And a lot of these synthwave groups are doing covers of the older 80s songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, putting their spin or reimagining them, I guess. Or you said it's even better. So is the new version faithful, or it's just so different that it's better?
It's absolutely faithful. It just has better production. The guy nailed the vocals. He sounds just like the fellow.
Nice.
Roland was his name. Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool.
Wow. Neat. That's
one of the great albums of the 80s too. Songs from the Big Chair. Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I mean, that
Head Over Heels was on that album as well.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
That was like their breakthrough album. Tears for Fears. All of a sudden, like they were all over the place. And Shouts. That's a good choice. Two good choices.
Excellent
surprises.
Choice.
Yeah, I wasn't. You know what? Tears for Fears didn't even enter. I didn't even get there. Like I was still scraping the surface of the stuff that I remembered. So my number 5 goes back to 1981, and I remember hearing this song, and it was something different. It was kind of I think it was one of my first exposures to new wave. Gary Newman Cars would have been number 5, but it was technically 79. So I'm like, that's like the Godfather. But I think this is like the Goddaughter. Is Kids in America by Kim Wilde.
I knew you were going to pick this one.
Really?
I had that feeling. I just had that feeling.
I didn't know I was going to pick it. It hit number 5 on the chart, so it actually didn't do too bad. but it was just a totally different sound at that time from the stuff I was listening to. And it's kind of got that Gary Newman-ish vibe, but for some reason it also evokes a little bit of Blondie for me. I don't know if it's the vocal or just like, it doesn't sound like Blondie, but it's kind of in that, like, it's like a newer way, even though Blondie you could probably consider new wave.
You're right.
Or
It's sort of punk. Has that sort of post-punk feel, but incorporating that new wave sound to it. So
and it's just totally like, for me, it was like, oh wow, this is just something totally different than what I was listening to, at the 81 Fleetwood Mac, listening to that kind of stuff. And then like Kids in America came out and I'm like, wow, this just sounded so different. And then she had that song, You Keep Me Hanging On, that she did the cover of the Supreme song, which she made a hit as well. Yeah. But this one was just so, for me, it was kind of like the shot across the bow of, this is just really a different type of sound, because it really was like synth heavy, and not the normal type of music that I was listening to, where it's like guitar, bass, and, kind of, you hear all that stuff. This was just totally early days for me. 81, that was kind of like, wow, I didn't even know where this came from. And I think I might have seen it on like USA Night Flight. I don't know if you remember that show, Eric.
Yeah.
Pre-MTV, they had this show on cable that would, like, from at midnight, they would show these obscure videos. Yeah. And I think that's where I may have seen it. So memories. So far, we've got Video Killed the Radio Star. We've got Tears for Fears with Shout, which is a great one, and Kim Wilde, Kids in America. So Eric, why don't you lay out number 4? All right,
so my number 4 is actually, it's a kind of an earworm song for me, because it keeps, for some weird reason, it keeps popping up even today. Like, when I hear it, it sticks in my head for like a week, and I can't get rid of it. Probably because of its, I don't know, it's just the kind of like really it's not really laid back nature of it, but it's just kind of a smooth recording. But I actually, first time I heard it, my sister was listening, because she was into the sort of the gothy kind of stuff. She was into the Smiths, and so this is The Killing Moon by Echo and the Bunnymen, and this actually appeared on the soundtrack to Donnie Darko, which, if you've never seen that film, that is a wild. I have no idea what's going on in that movie, but I love the soundtrack to that film. There's such great songs. Head Over Heel. I almost went with Head Over Heels, because I was kind of like debating which one I should use, but they both appeared on the same soundtrack. But Killing Moon, I love the sound of it. It's a great recording. It came out in 84 on an album called Ocean Rain. And it has that sort of gothy feel, but not really. It's not too heavy in that, like, kind of like the Smiths. It doesn't really go that deep and that far.
The mascara isn't that heavy.
That's right. And it's actually kind of a, you could actually kind of dance to the tune. It's like you could move to it. I love the groove. I Dean will tell you that I'm a big fan of rhythm, being a sort of a frustrated drummer myself. I'm always into songs with a nice bass line or a groove to it. And this has that. And I love the vocal on it too. So, yeah. But I got it. But like every 10 years, it comes to me, and then it just sticks in my head for like days, and I can't get rid of it out of my head. I think it's their biggest hit. But I don't think I think it was like number 9, I believe, or something, but in the UK charts. Mm-hmm. But it's their most well-known song. Mm-hmm. So
they had that song "Lips Like Sugar" also. I think that was another one. From them, and then kind of that was all that Susie and the Banshees and all those groups in that, like from that like The Cure and Echo and the Bunnymen. It was that
really
subgenre of that.
Yeah,
what's that?
Yeah, I love the names of these bands. So
new wavy, but then also splintering off into the goth as well. So Jonah, what do you got for number 4? Lay it on us.
All right, so this is where I start to get a little silly. I got Last Christmas by Wham. It's my favorite Christmas song, and I'll listen to it in like July, just so I'm like, oh yeah, Christmas is coming soon. It's a good jam. I find Christmas music generally annoying, so to have one that I can like vibe with, and I don't know if you guys can think of any other Christmas songs that could be classified as 80s new wave, but there you have it.
No, and it's funny. I think we did a holiday live show, and I said that I hated covers of Last Christmas, that no one should ever cover, because I think Taylor Swift does a cover, and it's awful. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it is the biggest piece of trash. Why would you even try it? I said, I only ever want to hear the Wham version of Last Christmas. So I'm on board with you, Jonah.
All right.
I think the only song that would apply to your, to the new wave thing would be the Waitresses, right?
Christmas rapping.
Christmas rapping by the Waitresses. That is a full on new wave song. I mean, you could almost, again, you could listen to that pretty much any time of the year, so.
That's all right. A Christmas one, a Christmas in February, January, as it were for us, but a perennial for Jonah. Do you listen to any other Wham, or is that just an outlier of like, I don't really care for Wham, but this one does it for me?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely not consider myself a fan of Wham in general, but I mean, this Last Christmas is on my Christmas playlists and stuff like that I always want to listen to around the holidays. So. But It's like, it's a jam, it's always catchy and it always puts you in a good mood. So, yeah.
And George Michael, you're not going to go wrong with him. He's just a great singer. So you're not going to miss. And it just happens to be about Christmas, but that's all right. It's still a great song though. Right. It's just kind of, that's how you're looking at it. It doesn't make a difference. It's just good music. So, and that's the point. So,
and I agree that it should never be covered. That's just total silliness. That's like how they want to do a movie remake of The Godfather. Like, why would you do that? Or Scarface? Like, get out of here. Nobody wants that.
I heard for the Godfather remake, they were going to get Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. Just kidding.
Okay, I was like, I hope you're kidding.
Because they do everything together. So
yeah,
like,
could you imagine?
Like the new
my goodness!
Jonah's face was.
Like, is he serious? Yeah.
The horror. Oh, the horror of it all.
He totally stopped. And his eyebrows went up. I was like,
something I don't. Wow. That's great.
Okay. We're on number 4. Okay. My number 4. All right. This comes from 1985. And so we're kind of like in the middle of like the new wave, and it started to kind of get out of those rough edges of just all synthy stuff, because the early new wave was just all synthy stuff, and everybody's so excited, like Heath Ledger. It's like a dog, and I wouldn't know what to do with her if I caught it. It's like everybody was just using drum machines and synthesizers just for whatever reason, not knowing what they're doing. But in 1985, Level 42 came out with a song called "Something About You."
Yeah, that's a great choice.
And when as soon as I heard the bass, what he was doing, Mark King was doing with the bass on that song, because he really kind of brought the slap style bass playing back, and then especially applying it to something new wavy, which was kind of neat. So he kind of brought the funk inspired bass playing into like a new wave song, and the bass really is kind of like the main instrument in that song. And I just always, as soon as I heard that song, I was just like, wow, it was just something about it, corny. And it's just a really simple arrangement. It's just a really simple song. There's not a lot of tricks and not a lot of kind of new wavy things about it. Which means it's just like a solid song, but it just happens to be in that genre. And Mark King just became a really in-demand bass player as a result of this. He played like the Princess Trust concerts and all that other stuff, because he's like a virtuoso bass player, but then he was in this like new wave band.
Yeah.
And Level 42 kind of, as far as the States go, they kind of came and went. But that song, I could just always listen to it because it's just so catchy, and it's all about the bass. All about that.
It's
bass.
all. It's
like
almost
Meghan
like
Trainor says.
It's almost like an English funk, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of bringing back that sort of funk style of bass playing, which is fantastic. And putting it in this, I wouldn't say like really heavy synth industrial kind of thing going on, but there is there are moments of the song where it just has those bursts of dun, 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 like the horns, but they're not horns, they're keyboards, but that kind of thing. But yeah, that's a fantastic choice. I actually thought about that one myself.
It's Level 42, but it's number 4. So we didn't do a top 50. If we did a top 50, it would definitely be number 42, because I would have to match it.
Oh, of course.
Countdown. But we just don't have that kind of time. And I don't think anybody wants to listen to us talk about 50 songs each.
Wow.
Unless it's like a 7-part mini series.
Yeah, we'd have to break that up. Yeah, no doubt.
So number 3, Eric, why don't you uncork your number 3 new wave hit of the 80s?
All right, so this one is the sort of deep cut, what I was talking about, and I was a huge, or I still am. When I got into the Police, I was obsessed with the band when I first got into them. So of course, being so obsessed, you want to collect everything that they've done. And that includes soundtrack work, that includes solo work, that kind of thing. So, and I'm also a huge Stuart Copeland fan. So with this he did the soundtrack for. I'm probably one of maybe 5 people on the planet that actually owned the Rumblefish soundtrack and actually had it in my pocket and listened to it on my Walkman, even though the whole thing is mostly score and there's just only one song actual with lyrics and a singer, and that is "Don't Box Me In." And I just love this track. I love the lyrics to it. He plays all the instruments himself, Copeland, and he has Stan Ridgway from Wall of Voodoo singing the track. So that's so to have that collaboration too was always cool for me too. And when artists got together and did things together. So, and Copeland would go on and do this. In fact, he's in a band with Mark King from Level 42 just recently. Like he put together this gizmo, like it's like a Prague traveling Wilburys, and has like this super group of like of Prague artists, doing this thing. And it's an amazing album. It's called Gizmondo is the name of the band. And I forget the name of the album, but it's so crazy. And he's got Adrian Belew from King Crimson on there, and it's some Italian keyboardist on there. So, but I always love Copeland's like soundtrack work, that quirky. You hear it in like She's Having a Baby, and like some, he did a lot of movies, but you can always tell it's Stuart Copeland with that weird rhythm track. And interestingly enough, I never saw Rumblefish until much later. And if I had, I would have really appreciated what he was actually doing on this soundtrack, because it was all about time. The whole movie is based Coppola based the entire sound structure of the film on time. So the entire thing is all about rhythm. So there's sound effects that apply to the score. There's clocks ticking, and typewriters, and and you can actually hear it in the track and hear it on the soundtrack as well. All the sound effects. So the blending of sound design and score music was always fascinating to me. And there's several other soundtracks that I love listening to for that effect. So, but yeah, but the song itself, it's such great lyrics in it, and it really, I think there's one line in it where he says, if and when I don't talk, this blackboard lacks a piece of chalk, and it's such a great line. Like, just don't keep me down, don't box me in. I'm gonna, I want to do, I want to change, I want to do more, or whatever. And that's, kind of what the movie's about. If you know the story, if you've ever read the book.
Mm-hmm. Mickey Rourke was in that too, right?
Mickey Rourke,
Rumblefish.
Yeah, Matt Dillon. It's a great film. Yeah. It really is. It's kind of artsy. He went the artsy route.
Yeah, it was filmed in sepia tone, right?
Yeah. And there's only one piece of color, which is which is actually the fish. There's this scene where it's an aquarium. There's the fish are red, and that's the only piece of color in the entire film that that shows up. So it's interesting. So but I love that track, and I just love Stuart Copeland. He's one of my favorite drummers. Cool. Always has been, still is. So there you go.
Stan Ridgway, you said Wall of Voodoo.
Yeah.
They were about an inch away from making my top 5 with Mexican radio.
With Mexican radio,
song,
yep.
Damn it. That song is so crazy.
Yeah.
And I was listening to it yesterday. I'm like, man, it was such a good song.
Yep.
Oh boy. All right. Jonah, what do you got for us? Number 3.
All right. My number 3 pick is True Faith by New Order. And it's actually a song I got into because it was on the American Psycho soundtrack, the Christian Bale movie.
Yeah.
It's a bop, as the kids would say these days. It's got a great rhythm. It's got great melodies, great keyboards in it. And I like New Order in general. I mean, of course, I think their biggest hit was Blue Monday.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to pick that one. But so I like to listen to the American Psycho soundtrack pretty often. It's got a lot of like Huey Lewis and the News on there, and I'm drawing a blank on the other guy, the Addicted to Love guy, Robert Palmer and stuff. Yeah. But there's a scene in the movie where he's Christian Bale's character is in the like one of these 80s dance clubs, and everyone's doing coke and stuff like that, and they're bumping True Faith by New Order. So yeah,
nice,
love it.
Right,
that's a good choice. Another connection to my list almost. This is getting creepy because Joy Division was on my list, and then they came off, and the members of Joy Division, formed New Order after the lead singer Ian Curtis unfortunately committed suicide. they kind of regrouped and they became New Order. So all these threads are sewing our list together, or I should say my near misses are sewing the list together because I haven't put any of them on. But Joy Division is on the honorable mention list. But that's a great choice, Jonah. Yeah,
Thank you.
that was New Order is a great brand. My number 3 it's kind of a twofer. Eric's going to get a kick out of this one.
Okay.
This starts my run of 1982 songs. So the next 3 are all from 82, and I don't know why, but it's just the way it came out. Hit number 5 on the Billboard charts, and while this song was charting, the group broke up because they had enough of each other, and the song became a hit. And the record company's like, "Well, what do you guys?" And they're like, "No, we're done. Like, we don't care. We're tired of each other." And then they kind of drifted and tried to pull something together, but it was the group is After the Fire, and the song is Der Kommissar.
Yes.
And it's got a riff. It's got the riff of all 80s riffs.
That is, oh man. You know what? I forgot all about that song. Oh my God. How did I not think of that song?
Originally co-written and performed by Falco.
Yes. Yeah.
And Falco is unfortunately he passed away so young. Falco, such a character, such a great musician, and just a character in music. And he was so great. And he did a version of it in German, and that was a big hit in Germany. And then this group After the Fire kind of did an American version of it with American lyrics. And they adapted the riff that was in Falco, because Falco's was more of a disco-y or dancey version. And then After the Fire, it just got that guitar riff in the beginning. It screams 80s. It's just a great, it's a great song. That reminds me of it certainly takes me back to when I was young, because I remember that song was just, it seems like it was more popular than number 5 because everybody used to sing that song. It was like kind of, it was everywhere. And then oddly enough, Laura Branigan she rewrote the song, and it was renamed Deep in the Dark on her second album. Oddly enough, Laura Branigan from Gloria fame redid it with new lyrics, but the arrangement is exactly the same.
Really?
Wow. Very strange. It's called Deep in the Dark, and it just doesn't fit. Like After the Fire takes the best of the Falco version and kind of and makes it new wavy. Yeah. It's just got that the kind of rappy, singy lyrics, the style of the vocalist, and then this band just imploded. It was like, here's Der Kommissar, we're done, we'll see you later.
Yeah,
it's kind of like
I remember their version just flowed so much. It was so much bigger, and it had such a broader sound than Falco's version, which was much more stiff and very stiff
and disco-y or dancey and kind of not as well produced. I mean, but Falco co-wrote it, at least the German version. I don't know if I'm going to assume that the lyrics are a direct translation from the German. I didn't even bother to find that out, but I think they are. But either way, so I got a 2 for it. If you want the Falco version, go for the Falco. If you want the After the Fire version, you can certainly go with that. And then Falco would hit later on with Rock Me Amadeus. Yeah, he would finally get a number 1 with Rock Me Amadeus, cashing in when Amadeus came out.
Yeah, that's right.
That Der Kommissar song, though, that's another one that's fun to sing like a Charles Dickens character.
Put the accent on.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
When I was watching, if you go on Spotify, they have like a little icon and they'll show you the lyrics and stuff. So I'm like, oh, I never knew the lyrics to the song. Yeah. So I put it on because he sings it so fast and just it's so rapid fire. I'm like, so you can pick up a word here and there, and I'm notoriously not good with kind of sussing out lyrics. Yeah. So I was kind of like, oh, that's what it's about. Oh, okay. I just knew Der Kommissar, Jaja.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Jaja. So Eric, we're up to number 2 already.
Oh, yeah, we're breezing right through.
We're blowing through. So we're definitely gonna have time for those honorable mentions.
Yeah.
What do you got for number 2?
One of my all-time favorite 80s songs ever, and that's 81's "I'll Melt with You," Modern English. Just love this song. The first time I heard it, I fell in love with it on the spot, and it was MTV again, and that's how I got to know it. And I know it probably charted fairly well. I think it's a modest hit, but I just love, and it's actually, I love the version from the album more because it's longer. So it kind of, there's more of an extension, there's more of a middle bridge to it. And yeah, and this is right at the end of that song, like when, when the moment where he's like, like humming.
Mm-hmm.
I love that moment where he's like, and then all of a sudden that drum kicks in, and I just love that. I just love that part of the song. And it always I don't. It's a simple drum fill, but it gave me chills all the time, and I was always waiting in the video for that one moment, and you actually see the drummer like really, go in there. But yeah, just hands down, just one of my favorite 80s songs. So there's really not much else to say about it except I just love the song.
It's quintessential new wave. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I Melt With You is new wave 101.
Yeah, it's danceable. It's like you go into a club. I used to, when I was living in Florida, they would play, they had like 80s nights and down, Ybor City downtown. You'd go there and that song, and when you hear it like so loud and everybody's dancing to it, it was such a great vibe to it. I just love it. And I love the lyrics to the song. It's a kind of a twisted love song, I guess, but the lyrics are kind of weird, but it is a love song.
Yeah. Yeah. I think some of those songs became, and you mentioned 81.
Yeah.
Because at the time, those kind of songs were few and far between. So those ones that made it through, like
right
Kids in America and Melt With You, became really kind of iconic because the wave hadn't really hit yet of everybody else kind of getting in on it. So, those were kind of like the first shots across the bow of this type of music that was getting through, at least to hear. And I remember that too. Everyone, it was something different, and it was, just
it still had enough
what we're hearing.
Yeah, it still had enough of that punk sound, like just enough of the guitar and just enough of, it wasn't so heavily overproduced with that studio, like that real process kind of sound just sort of came in, especially a lot of with the hair bands and the metal stuff of the 80s. You could really had that like real saccharine, it's hard to describe, but it just had that certain sound to me that I just couldn't stand, like everything became electronic. But this would had just enough of that sort of like right from the late 70s period when things were still very analog and very, and that I love that about the song.
Yeah, before the studio trickery came in and the glossy,
right,
that glossy sound that we both much malign.
Yeah,
we loved it then. It was as slick as ice. You could, like I said, I think it was the needle would skip across the record. It was so slick. The production.
It's like eating a piece of sweet candy, right? And you just get sick of it real fast. You know how you eat something real, and you just you just can't, and you won't eat that piece of candy for years. You might revisit it at some point, but then that was
the late 80s for you.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. So
candy you won't eat again.
Yeah, I no. So there you go. So that's my number 2.
Good. Yep. We've got some really, I love this. It's such a diverse list. And we're at number 2. So Jonah, we're getting close to the edge. So what's your number 2?
All right. I'm pretty excited about this one. It is the Ghostbusters theme song by Ray Parker Jr. So
excellent.
And I have very specific memories tied in with this, and that would be my after school daycare. We would do field trips to the roller skating rink. I mean, this doesn't get any more 80s than this. And when that song would come on, I would go hard on those roller skates. I was like, I don't care how bad I am or if I'm going to fall on my face or whatever. I was, that song just gets you so pumped up. And of course I love the movies and that sort of iconic tie-in to the movie, it much like The Power of Love, with Back to the Future. This was just like one of the great 80s anthems, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely, because you don't really get songs anymore from movies that actually mention the title.
Right.
There's not a whole lot to that, right? It's got its riff, which we've talked about in previous episodes, was lifted from Huey Lewis.
Yeah, Huey Lewis sued Ray Parker Jr. and won the lawsuit, famously. But so on Movie Lovers Pod, we did an episode on Mortal Kombat, the 90s original Mortal Kombat. And so that also made, and I mentioned that in that episode where, the Mortal Kombat theme song just goes Mortal Kombat, and so the Ghostbusters theme song is Ghostbusters. And it doesn't get any more direct and right to the point. So,
because the Mortal Kombat theme, they just took. Didn't they take it from the video game too? I mean, they pretty much took a lot of the theme stuff right from the sound effects from the video game too, right? I mean, they
use sound effects from the video game. They
pretty much adapted the theme, I think, right? I mean, that was pretty much the theme from the video game for the original film.
I don't think so. No? I think the Mortal Kombat theme song was original for the movie. Okay. But they did use like the sound clips from the video game and like
finish him,
the punching sounds and stuff, and
get over here.
Yeah.
Scorpion was my favorite Mortal Kombat character. Just
right on. I'm kind of half embarrassed to say that I recently watched a YouTube video that I found of Ray Parker Jr. doing like a 50-minute version of the Ghostbusters theme song. It was like a big jam session. And I watched the whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many in 50 minutes, how many times was that riff played? Because that's all that song is. It's the riff and Ghostbusters pretty much. It's kind of like Happy. That song Happy. It's kind of like kind of goes and there's like videos of Happy just on a loop for hours.
I like the part of the song too that's like it's sort of the like chorus bar B part or whatever. Yeah, that part hits pretty hard as well, I would say. Yeah. There's some guitar playing on it too,
and then in the music video they got Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, and Ernie Hudson to dance in Times Square. I don't think they cleared the traffic out for that too. I think people like in the background like, what the hell? What are these people doing?
Yeah. Are you a big fan of the film?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, both Ghostbusters movies were rented all the time from the video store back when that was a thing. Yeah.
Did you see Afterlife or the remake?
I did. And I loved it. Yeah.
What about the one from the quote unquote reboot from a couple of years ago?
Oh, with the female cast.
Yes.
I did see that. I actually kind of liked it. I didn't think it was that bad. Chris Hemsworth kind of stole the show in my opinion, but it was super funny. Yeah, but the Afterlife movie that just came out recently, I was crying like a baby at the end of that.
I heard that. I heard a lot of people say that. They say like the last 20 minutes of the movie, you're just a mess.
I was like uncontrollably sobbing. I'm not going to ruin it for people, but yeah.
Wow. We need to check this out.
Yeah.
Like, those like sobbing when your chest is like heaving and you're like, oh my God. This like,
Dean knows because he's always getting on me I cry about everything. I'm a very sentimental
every
guy,
episode he has something that I shed I heard this and I shed a tear. I heard this song and I tear up when I hear it. When I open my front door, I tear up.
There you go.
When I put my shoes on, I tear up.
I tear up because
Eric tears up quite easily
because I need a new pair of shoes. So these are
you teared up thinking about them.
There you go. Oh goodness.
Are you ready for? I actually, Jonah, you're the first person I've actually spoken to or heard that actually saw it. I haven't really encountered anybody that saw Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Andy, our friend Andy Cremines, he said the exact same thing. He was like the end of the film, he was crying and he loved it. He thought it was so great. Casey Bauer, they both said great things about it. So they're big fans of the film, of the original. So yeah,
it was really powerful. Yeah, I mean, just go see it if you haven't seen it.
The ageless Paul Rudd was in it. That guy's never going to age.
Right?
He's got a painting in his attic.
Dorian Gray.
He's got the painting somehow. I don't know where he got it from, but he's got the painting in his attic. Eric, you ready for number 2?
Well, what's your number 2?
You just did Ghostbusters.
Yeah, but what's yours?
Oh, you did. Oh, it's my
next
turn.
That's right.
I'm so excited talking about Ghostbusters. I lost the plot. Jonah just totally tantalized me with the emotional draw that Ghostbusters took on him. I totally don't even know what number we're on. So
there you go.
It's my number 2.
Yes.
My turn. Okay. I'm ready. I have one. Keeping in the spirit of 1982, The Motels, Only the Lonely. An American band. And this is probably the least new wavy song on my list. It actually probably skews more towards rock or pop. According to Wikipedia, they're listed as a new wave band, so I put them on the list. If Wikipedia says it's true, who am I to argue with Wikipedia? I mean, we know that's,
I think that
not anybody could just write in Wikipedia. Well,
it has
actually anybody can write in
line.
Wikipedia.
I think it has enough of that sound to it that it qualifies, certainly. Yeah,
it is. It's absolutely part of that new wave. And again, and you know what? I think there's a difference here. In the beginning, I said, we said about the British new wave and keyboard heavy. And I think the American new wave stuff had those elements, but I think they had more of a rock sound. I think that, and that's it may be a broad generalization.
You might
perhaps.
be right. Yeah, I think you're right about that. Yeah, it's a good point.
For the most part, like the English stuff was very synth and drum heavy and sequenced.
Yeah.
And the American new wave stuff probably owed more to like guitar-y, Ramones-y rock stuff with some of those elements put in as well. So the Motels hit number 9 on the Billboard charts. This song is just what always I loved about this song is just the tightness of the band. Like I'm always drawn to listening more to the background and what the band is doing in the back than to what Martha Davis, who's got a great voice. I mean, they should have really gone further, the Motels, and they had this song and then Suddenly Last Summer. But this one was just one for me of another one that just evokes that era. It kind of fits right in. It's kind of like, oh man, and Martha Davis should have been up there, but for some reason they just couldn't parlay what they were doing into more hits. But this was a big one. It hit number 9.
Yeah, she had a great voice. She's this was actually on my honorable mention. This song. So
we came close.
Yeah, we came close. But I love the mood of it. I love the mood of the song. It's one of my favorite songs by a female artist. From the 80s. So
you're not going to go wrong with it. And like I said, they're just, for me, what ties it together for her, with her voice is just the tight production. That band just sounds really tight. It fits with what she's doing. It backs her well. And like I said, I like listening to the backing, what they're doing in the back almost more than the vocals, because it just fits so well and just kind of really, a lot of times I find myself concentrating on that and then like losing the vocals. So, all right, well, I think we're ready.
Number 1.
Ready for number 1? Are you ready for Freddie?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So number 1, this is the top 5 new wave hits of the 80s. Number 1, go for it.
So my number 1 is from one of my favorite bands, and then
Chipmunks?
Did not actually get into them until 84, and it's when we saw Stop Making Sense, and so in the theater. So Talking Heads, Once in a Lifetime is it's actually one of my favorite songs, period. But it certainly is one of my favorite songs by the Talking Heads, and it resonates so well. I mean, today as a middle-aged man, I listen to this song and it's oh wow. I think lyrically it kind of shares the same DNA as like Wouldn't It Be Nice by the Beach Boys. So it talks about life and dreaming of a life and putting yourself in, thinking about where you're going to be, 5-10 years down the road kind of thing. So it really, at the time, I thought it was just a ridiculous video. We used to, a buddy of ours, we would sit there and actually just be on the floor crying, and because it was so stupid. We're like, what is this? And we were just hysterical laughing watching this video, but it was so catchy. The song just sort of caught on. And then, like I said, when we saw the film, that really opened the door for I fell in love with the Talking Heads, and I went back, of course, and really got into that band. And
wow, yeah, that's a stunner.
They're such an unusual band, and I just love their quirkiness and just their the way of looking at David Byrne's way of looking at life, and just in a very sort of like ironic kind of way, and like there's this like tongue-in-cheek humor to it as well. So yeah, some great grooves from the band as well. So it just is sort of skirting the line of like again with the funk thing, or some of it's kind of like almost disco in a sense. Like they kind of went there. It's like R&B, and then they do a little bit of gospel. It's just all kinds of like American type music blended in with a new wave sound, and then they incorporated into this thing. And I just love the band.
Yeah, you got Tina Weymouth on the bass.
Tina Weymouth,
you're not going to go wrong with her. I mean, she should have been probably one of our top 5. And when we did our top 5 bass players,
yeah,
that was probably a grievous omission of not having Tina Weymouth on there.
I did think about her, but I put Tal instead. I wanted to show some love for Tal Wilkenfeld, but I did think of her, when we did that one. So yeah,
absolutely an amazing bass player. And the rhythm section, her and her husband Chris Franz, they became the Tom Tom Club. So that's where you hear you talk about the kind of sounds that Talking Heads come out with. They were kind of on their own trajectory too of making different types of music, and then incorporating that with David Byrne's kind of skewed view on things. It was just like like the Talking Heads, like you said. There's nothing that really is like them. The closest was that song by Modest Mouse, "Float On." I thought that was a Talking Heads song when I first heard it.
Yeah,
that was like the '90s, I think.
Wasn't Modest Mouse pretty big? And I think that was the 2000s.
Oh, it was 2000s?
Mid 2000s. Yeah. They were part of that whole movement of like New York type bands, like the Strokes and all that.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I thought it was early. I thought they were in the 90s alternative, but early 2000s. And I'm like, yeah, this sounds a lot like Talking Heads to me. That's the closest I've ever heard anybody come.
Yeah, well, we did the '90s one with Rusted Root. The lead singer for Rusted Root sounds a lot like David Byrne to me. So it had that world, incorporating that sort of in the later stuff that David Byrne would incorporate that more world sound, and like Latin and sort of Spanish flavor and that kind of stuff, or African flavor, if you will. But they're just a great band. They were just so quirky and so great. So yep.
Cool.
There you go.
So once in a lifetime.
Yep.
Number 1. Jonah.
All right.
This is what we've worked to this moment with you.
Yes.
We've gone through the top 4, and we're here at the station.
This is exciting. So I just want to, so this is a song that I really want to cover. I love it so much that I want to cover it with one of my bands. It is Shake the Disease by Depeche Mode. Now, I would argue that Depeche Mode are to new wave what Metallica are to metal. I think Depeche Mode is feel free to disagree. Depeche Mode are like the quintessential band from that era, and they're still going now and making music and touring when, under normal circumstances, even though they're all old men now or whatever. I don't know if this would be classified as a deep cut. I discovered it just listening to a Depeche Mode playlist on Spotify one day, and I absolutely love it. It's got hooks for days. The chord progression choices in it are unorthodox to me, and they took a lot of creative liberties with it that were unique to them and brave, I think. And it's just, it's an incredible song. It was an easy choice for me for number 1.
Was that like, did you choose the number 1 right from the jump, or like you knew that was it? Yeah. And then work backward?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now you're right about Depeche Mode.
What's that?
I said you're absolutely right about Depeche Mode, and their impact in the 80s was just, they were on that kind of goth. Actually, when they first started out, they were kind of poppy. They had that song "Just Can't Get Enough."
Yeah.
Which was really not anything sounding like what they would do later.
They're like kind of darker, more melancholic stuff that they would do. That's the stuff that I get into a lot more, for sure.
Yeah, and they definitely started out as that more poppier edge, and then kind of veered off into some more serious themes.
They realized that life is tragic, so
it wasn't all pop songs and
sad. They did have more akin to with the bands like the Smiths. I think they were, they kind of had that similar vibe going in their later stuff as well. But yeah, you're right. I agree as well. They are one of the quintessential new wave bands of the 80s.
You know what it probably was? They just realized that chicks get into dark, brooding dudes more.
Yeah.
Chicks go for guys with tortured souls.
Yeah, they're broken. They think they can fix them.
Yeah, that whole thing. Yeah, so
I can fix him. Look at him. I can fix him
this way. Yeah,
he's so depressed. I can make him happy. Not in Depeche Mode. You can't. You have to have a certain demeanor to retain your membership in Depeche Mode. No more. Just can't get enough songs. That went out very early on.
That has to be my least favorite song by them. So it's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah, I don't remember when I came across that song. I'm like, wait, this is Depeche Mode?
Yeah, it's like Yeah, the musical version of Splenda, it's just like disgusting. It's like a child song that,
It's very
a
Eric.
band
Did you
are
ever hear
playing.
that song? Just can't get enough.
Yeah.
It's so like you hit it on the
Nothing
head. John.
unlike
It's very,
anything they've
very simple, but catchy songs often are simple,
right.
And that's all it was. There was not a lot to it, but the fact that it was Depeche Mode was what kind of threw me. I'm like, wait, this is just like pop stuff, not the. I came to it like after. So after hearing Personal Jesus and all that other stuff, and then hearing that, I'm like, wait, what?
Mhm.
This is the same band?
Yeah.
How did they get from A to Z?
My sister's a huge fan of the live version of Everything Counts, which is a beast in itself. If you've ever heard that from Blasphemous Rumors, it's like an EP, a live EP, and that came out in '93. So it was recorded, later on. So, but that thing is so great. It's such, I love that version of the song myself. It's so much better than the studio version, I feel. And that's one of her like all-time favorite. I almost put that, on my list as what,
that would have been interesting too. Depeche Mode, but different songs.
Yeah, I came close, and in fact, I should have used it. I should have been an honorable mention, but it wasn't. It didn't go there either.
It just became one.
Eric, have you heard of a metal band from Sweden called In Flames?
I've heard the name, but I'm not familiar with the
Check
music.
out In Flames does a cover of Everything Counts.
Okay.
And I always loved that song, and I didn't even realize it was a cover back when I was in high school. But it's a unique take on it, that's for sure. It's pretty heavy, so.
Okay,
yeah,
I'm putting it down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting a lot from this guy. This is cool.
Eric's jotting everything down.
Jotting everything down. There you go.
He's got his quill, and he's dipping it in his ink and writing it on parchment.
Hey,
that's
I'm
how
here
old
to
we
put
are.
a unique flavor in this mix. So
Absolutely, no, we love it.
Yeah.
Okay, my turn again. Number one. I'm going to take a page from Eric's file, and I guarantee you, Eric probably never heard this song. Maybe I don't think so. So I'm saving my number one for a really obscure song, but I need to advocate for it. That's why, because I think people need to hear it. And it was something that I totally forgot about a few years ago. A friend of mine, more than 10 years ago, but he sent me he emailed me an MP3 of this song, and I'm like, what do you say? Like, I didn't ask for this. Why did you send it? And I didn't recognize it. And then when I played it, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot. And I love when I forget about a song and hear it now. And it doesn't happen very often, but this was one of those ones. He sent it to me and I played it. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot this song even existed. It hit. This is how obscure it is. It hit number 109 on the Billboard Top 200. Okay. So we're not even close to being anything. But I remember it, and the group is the Monroes, and the song is "What Do All the People Know?" And it is the tale of this band. They were a new wave band from San Diego. Okay, they put out an EP,
yes,
and they were on a Japanese label. All right, they're a San Diego band on a Japanese label. The label decides to pull up stakes in the United States. Like, we're not doing anything in the United States anymore. So they were left without a label after putting out this EP with this marvelous song, "What Do All the People Know?" on it. And then they got signed to CBS Records, and CBS gave them no support. It was just like they just kind of just disintegrated before they even got started. This song has got two singers. And we talked about it in our Squeeze episode, how Difford and Tilbrook kind of lay their vocals, and it almost sounds like one person.
Mm-hmm.
This song has that same type of thing. There's two guys singing, but their vocals are so well matched that it sounds like one person with a very unique voice. And I totally forgot about it. And my friend sent it to me, and I'm like, wow, number 109 in the charts. No wonder I forgot about it, because it never gets played anywhere. And I don't even remember how I would have heard it back in '82, but I definitely was like, oh my God, I heard it, and it was like, I needed to put them at number one. I think because they deserved it, because they really, I don't know how this didn't do better, but they also just got kind of screwed by circumstance. I actually bought the EP. I was at a record convention, and they had it. I pulled it out. I made believe I didn't really care about it, but inside I'm like, oh shit. This is the Monroes EP. And I'm, I was like, well, I was trying to really, well, how much you want for this? Because, who wants,
Oh,
Like
now I need to go listen to
will
it.
you take $5? And he's like, all right. I ran. I'm like, I got it. Sucker.
Nice. That's great.
So what we're going to do also is we're going to put our list in the show notes as well. I'm also going to make a Spotify playlist. So I'll make the playlist of all these songs, and we'll also link that in the show notes. So if you want to listen to some of these songs, and I love it's such a great spread. I represent the poppy stuff. I wear my heart on my sleeve. Eric was kind of there too, and then Jonah actually really was on that English kind of new wave edge there, which I really liked with New Order and Depeche Mode, and that really is a certain segment of new wave as well. That was like the more serious. I went for the poppier stuff, and Jonah was definitely more on the serious edge. So I like the spread we have here of.
When I listen to my new wave, I gotta I want to cut myself and put on guy liner and everything.
I'm more like Steve Buscemi and Billy Madison. I'm putting like the lipstick on my face and making my list of people that bullied me in school.
Anytime you want to make a Billy Madison reference, I'm on board for it. So pee in your pants is the coolest.
Then I'm James Brown.
Yeah.
I see a Billy Madison
kindred spirit
episode in our future here. So we maybe
we'll
have you on to talk about that.
I'm gonna break my own rule, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
You go out and you find that fucking dog. The kid lost a puppy.
Miss Lippy should have gotten best supporting actress for that.
I forgot. I was watching it with somebody recently, in the scene where Miss Lippy's like putting the glue on her face, and someone's like, "What does that mean?" I said, "I don't know, but it's funny." I said, "I have no clue why Miss Lippy is putting the paste like on her face like it's a facial cream or something." I'm like, I don't get it, but that's the great thing about that movie. Is some stuff was just so random that you don't even try and figure it out. You just have to kind of go with it and take it as the overall thing,
Dodgeball time is special time for Miss Lippy also.
And the way he's just pegging those kids when he plays dodge. I mean, he was really tagging those kids with the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't really holding back. Some of those kids got hit like right in the chest and in the back. I mean, he was really, really pegging them with that ball. That will be, that we'll get to Billy.
All right, so a Billy Madison podcast episode needs to happen. Yeah, count me in for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna there we go. We found the one. We pushed the right button for Jonah, and we got it. And it only took us to guest once on our show for him to reveal his true nature, that it's Billy Madison. That's what he wants to talk about.
You found my weakness.
There you go. His Achilles heel. There it is.
Adam Sandler. Happy Gilmore too? Or no, just Billy Madison?
Let's do Billy Madison.
Yeah, okay.
I love Happy Gilmore also.
Okay.
But
I love that one too.
But if we can be real for a sec, though, Miss Veronica Vaughn, so hot, wants to touch the hiney. Ow.
Want to touch the hiney.
Amazing.
Oh God!
Bradley Whitford was in that too. Oh my God!
Yeah, he's always. I always see him and stuff nowadays, and I'm like, he's Eric from Billy Madison.
Yeah, And the teacher, we are all now more stupid for having listened to that.
It's been a really long time since I've seen it. Actually,
for having heard that.
God, it's been so long since I've seen it too. So I'm like, it's all coming back.
And who was Darren McGavin was the father, right?
Yes.
That was right. That was Darren McGavin was the father.
I love him. I used to love that
such
guy.
A great.
He was such a yeah.
And he wants a snack pack. Anyway, we took an exit, but that's fine. It was an appropriate exit because it's always a good time to talk about Adam Sandler films.
Yeah,
and Billy Madison. So let's do just one honorable mention. Let's roll through that quick, and then we'll tie everything up. So what do you pick your? Well, you said you only have two, so you got a 50-50 shot. What are you going to grab, Jonah?
Oh, if I only get one honorable mention?
Yeah, make it good.
All right. So I'm going to have to go with Weird Science by Oingo Boingo. Danny Elfman has, of course, gone on to have this awesome film scoring career. But to know that he started out in Oingo Boingo is, pretty stellar. So
yeah, great.
Yeah, you seem to have an affinity for the movie, from songs from movies.
Yeah. Well, I love music and movies, so it makes sense, right?
Bingo. Eric? Honorable
mine
mention.
is the ultimate love song. You hear it all the time, and that's true. Spandau Ballet.
Nice.
I'm a sucker.
It's a
for
great
that song.
song.
I love it. It's so good.
It's a great
Every
vocal.
dance you see, every 80s movie, it's or movies about the 80s, it's there.
Yep.
Even Steve Buscemi in The Wedding Singer, right?
That's right. He sang it at the end.
At the end, oh God, I love it. It's such a great tune. Yep.
Wow, that's a good one.
It is. Yeah.
I have 3 honorable mentions, so if I'm picking one, I'm gonna pick the song that was on my list, but then I took it off, and I probably shouldn't. "Whip It" by Devo. It is so easy to take. It is so easy to take that song for granted, but for some reason, recently I've been getting into Devo. I'm really starting to appreciate what they were doing, and actually the fact that they're really first-rate musicians as well.
Yeah.
Back then it was a novelty. Oh, whip it, with the whip sound and everything. But wow, I just really kind of now understood what they were doing when they were like at the time. I'm like, oh, I don't get this. It's weird. It's kind of whatever. But now I'm like, it came out in 1980, so I'm 42 years behind the curve on Whip It. As far as like my, everyone knows it, but as far as my appreciation for Whip It, it's made a full circle and come back to 2022, and I can appreciate.
And Mother Spa, another one who went into film scoring.
I was just about to say that he did the Thor Ragnarok score, and he did fantastic.
It is absolutely,
He is a brilliant man.
Yeah.
So.
And he still does stuff with Devo too. Jerry Casale also was the bass player for Devo, and he kind of keeps the Devo flames going. But then they reconvene every so often and do stuff as Devo. So. Good stuff. Wow. What a great top 5. This was a lot of fun. So, Jonah, where can we find you again? Where can people listen to Movie Lovers Podcast?
You can go to movieloverspod.com. We're available on any kind of streaming platform where you can find podcasts. And then our handles are @movieloverspod on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. If you want to listen to my music, you should go to pyramaze.com. That's PYRAMAZ as in zebra, .com, or catalystcrime.com is my symphonic metal band that I'm in as well. Or you can also visit me at jonahnweingarten.com. And I'm not going to even spell my last name for you. Good luck.
That's okay. We're going to put all those links into the show notes as well.
Awesome.
So you're going to be able to find all those. We highly encourage you. Check out the Movie Lovers Podcast. It's they have a different spin on it, and that's all they talk about. So go check them out. It's Jonah. It's been a pleasure having you.
Yes, sir.
It's been really fun, guys. Thank you so much.
It was a lot of fun. I guess we've got you booked for Billy Madison when that comes around, and that will have to be we'll have to put an E after that episode for explicit. I'm guessing it's
or disclaimer before. Yeah, that's definitely it has to go there. We avoid it.
It's definitely going to go there. So as for us, you can find us on social media, Instagram and Facebook at 3324 Podcast. We occasionally do the Twitter thing as well. That's 3324P. I was able to get a shorter handle just because of my short attention span. New episodes come out every Thursday. We also have quick hits that come out every Monday, which is also shorter form, little smaller bites for you to enjoy about music and film. Again, Jonah Weingarten from Movie Lovers Podcast, thank you so much for joining us on this top 5 new wave hits of the 80s episode. Check out Movie Lovers Podcast. Like I said, we're going to link everything in the show notes, but you can also find it on your favorite podcast platform as well. For Eric, for Jonah, this has been Dean, and we will catch you on the flip side.
You've been listening to the 3324 Podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 Podcast and on Twitter at 3324P to join the conversation.